Welcome friends, it's Gisa from Butterfly Garden Preschool, and today we're starting a new habitat. We're going to be talking about the ocean. I have a story for you, and then I have two activities at the end of the story that go along with what we're going to be reading about. So our story is Wish for a Fish, all about sea creatures. It's a Cat in the Hat library book, and it's written by Bonnie Worth and illustrated by Aristides Ruiz. I'm the cat in the hat, and I hear that you wish to go down to the sea and to visit the fish. Do you guys like going to the ocean? So please climb on board SS Undersea Glubber. It is made out of shark skin and very fine rubber. It will take us down deep, deep down under the sea. We will start at the top and go as deep as can be. The top parts are sunny. The bottom parts are black. We'll go to the bottom and then we'll come back. So you can see the top layer where the sun shines through is called the sunny zone. That's what they call it. It's really called the sunlight zone. And then the twilight zone, it starts to get darker. And then the dark zone, or most people call it the midnight zone. And then the abyss, and all the way deep, 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 deep down into the ocean is the trench. The sunny zone is where our sea visit starts. Most of our sea life is found in these parts. The law of the sea is the same as on land. I'll call it the food chain so you'll understand. We've done a lot of talking about the food chain in different habitats, most recently in the desert. Big fish eat smaller fish, and so on until you get down to one of the tiniest, the krill. So you can see this, the little krill is getting eaten by a small fish, which is getting eaten by a medium fish, which is getting eaten by a bigger fish, and then finally a huge fish, or shark. If you're wishing for fish, there are lots of them here. I see herring and mackerel swimming quite near. Fish can lay eggs. They have fins and fish tails, and most fish have bodies all covered with scales. These scales, they are coated with slippery slime. The slime keeps out germs, at least most of the time. Fish open their mouths and they let water in. That's when the gills job really starts to kick in. Gills sift through the water and pull out the air. They help the fish find all the air that is there. The jellyfish, which I like to call sea jelly, is a most interesting fella. He looks kind of like a transparent umbrella. So because a jellyfish is not a fish, a more accurate name is to call it a sea jelly. Stay away from his tentacles, those long stringy things. They stun prey by giving off hundreds of stings. Ooh, don't want to get stung by him. Of the hundreds of kinds of sharks in the sea, we only have time now to visit with 3. The 6-inch long dogfish, no, it never barks. The 50-foot whale shark, the Mack truck of sharks. And what have we here? It is called the great white for its white belly, great teeth, and great big bite. A shark grows its teeth in neat rows in its face. When the front row wears out, the next row takes its place. As your ears and your nose, that's what makes them so tough. The stuff is called cartilage. It folds and it bends, and when it is torn, the cartilage mends. What else can we see in this nice sunny water? Oh, say, see the manatee and her calf daughter. Manatees are mammals like you and like me. They have lungs and give milk to their babies, you see. Another sea mammal we'll see is the whale. It's the largest mammal we'll see without fail. The great whale family is split into 2, toothed whales like the orca and baleen like the blue. Baleen fills the the blue whale's mouth like a grill. As water flows through it, it strains out the krill. The blue whale weighs tons, maybe 90 or more. It's bigger than even a big dinosaur. These toothed whales are orcas. Few can defeat them. They like to hunt seals and to catch them and eat them. The narwhal's one tusk sticks out like a horn. It looks so much like a one-horned unicorn. All whales hold their breaths when they dive down below, and when they come out, they let out a big blow. Before we go deeper, let's all wave hello to our mammal pals, dolphins. That's them down below. A dolphin can see in the night. Wonder why? Echolocation. It works like an eye. It sends out a click, and the click bounces back. And the sound of that click helps the dolphin keep track of where it is going and which fish is where, and whether some foe, like a shark, might be there. Shake hands with the octopus. Isn't it great? With arm after arm just for hugging. Yikes, 8. For Dick and Sweet Sally, tell me, what would you think if I told you the octopus shoots out a dark ink? It squirts out the ink in some enemy's face and then swims away to a much safer place. Uh-oh, that eel is not happy. All right, here we are at the twilight zone. Of all of the fights that fought in the sea, there's one that is the biggest, if you're asking me. Do I hear you asking? I'm so glad you did. It's sperm whale versus giant squid. Like all whales, the sperm whale must come up for air, but this one can dive and then stay way down there for 2 hours or more at 3,000 feet, shopping for giant squid to eat. All right, now we're going deeper into the dark zone. Get out your flashlights. It's dark way down here, and the fish are beginning to look very queer. That means strange. The gigantera and the big mouth eel, the whip nose which comes with its own rod and reel. Look at that. Down here it is always as black as the night. So many fish here have their very own light. That's right, they have their very own little lights, little flashlights. They use it to locate a mate or some prey. Food hunting is hard like this, day after day. Now we're going even deeper into the abyss. You won't find many creatures in the deep, cold sea. Sea cucumbers, sea spiders, and tripod are 3. The abyss has a carpet of thick, yucky muck. Animals have legs, so they will not get stuck. Now we're the deepest part of the ocean, the trench. Before we go up, it is really a must that you visit the vents, which are cracks in the Earth's crust. It is up through these vents that the hot waters spout and warm up these clams and these worms here about. Giant clams and tube worms have enough things to eat because this deep spot has unusual heat. Oh, say, can you see by my undersea clock? It's time for fair glubber to get back to the dock. And now that our trip below the sea is all done, I will bet that you too have a wish for some. What do you think they're gonna wish for? They've been down in the deep, dark, cold sea. Some sun. And that's the end of our story. Okay, are you ready to make an ocean in a jar? Now that you've learned the layers of the ocean, we are going to make an ocean ourselves. In your homework packet this week, your parents got one of these, so you guys can do this at home. What you're gonna need is a jar. The directions say 3/4 cup. I'm gonna use a 1/2 cup for each layer because my jar is a little smaller. So you're gonna need a jar. You're gonna need a funnel. Again, I'm using a half a cup, although if you have a bigger jar, you can use a 3/4 cup measuring cup. And then you're gonna need Caro. I have never used Caro before, so this is just corn syrup. I ordered it from Target so that I could do this experiment with you guys. Some dish soap, that's blue. This is Dawn Platinum. You're gonna need some tepid water that you can use food coloring to dye blue. Some vegetable or corn oil. And then finally some rubbing alcohol. All right, let's get started. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take our corn syrup, our Caro, and we're going to put our little funnel inside the jar. And we're going to measure out, ooh, this is thick. If you guys remember Miss Marisol's lesson, she did a lesson on what sinks and what floats. This is very viscous. You guys learned that word during that lesson. So that means it's very thick. You can see that. So we're gonna put that on the bottom. And I'm gonna use some purple dye, purple food coloring mixed with a little bit of, just a tiny bit of green to make it really dark. Because this bottom layer, does anybody remember what this is called? The trench. So this is the trench. There is no sunlight getting down. The trench is so deep. So we want it to be almost black. More. This is just food coloring, but if you have other ways that you want to color your layers, by all means do so. All right, so what do you think, guys? Does that look dark enough? Does that look like the trench? Oh, and I want you to think about what lives down in the trench, where it's so dark, no sunlight gets down there. Okay. All right. Now, the next layer we're going to measure is the blue dish soap. So I'm going to stick my funnel back in, and I'm going to get my measuring cup, and we're going to measure out some blue dish soap. This is going to take several squeezes here. We're going to pour in the blue dish soap. Let's take a look, you guys. I can see the layer a little bit, but I might want to make it a little more pronounced. And the next thing we need is tepid water, which just means room temperature water. Again, you want to dye it a little bit. So now we have the trench and the abyss. This is the midnight zone. I'm gonna put the midnight zone in there. And I've got to do, now you want to pour the water kind of slowly because the dish soap is underneath this. And if you pour it too quickly, it'll just make tons of bubbles. So you just want to pour it really slowly. And the directions will tell you that too. And then get out your vegetable oil. That's going to be next. Now, you're not going to be able to color this layer. This layer does not take food coloring very well. So it's going to be lighter because it's twilight, even though twilight is still darker than sunlight. But you will be able to see a nice layer. All right, so we're going to put this in next. You're practicing your pouring here too. Remember to ask your mom and dads for help when you're doing this experiment. Okay, maybe I should have done that a little slower because I see some bubbles forming there. Okay, and finally we're going to put in the alcohol, the rubbing alcohol, which is going to go on top. You need a medicine dropper for this. So a medicine dropper or a pipette. So we're going to put that on top, the final layer, and you're going to want to actually squirt this on the side of the jar. You see how I'm doing that? Squeezing it out on the side of the jar. Because you're using a pipette and not just pouring it in all at once. This one takes a little longer. After you finish your jars, I want you to send me a picture. You can either post it on Instagram. Our Instagram is @ButterflyGardenPreschool, or you can email it to me. You can find our email on our website, www.butterflygardenpreschool.com. I also want to know which sea animals are your favorite and which zones they live in. So you might have to ask someone at home to help you look up which zone your favorite animals live in, ocean animals. All right, you guys, this is looking so fabulous. Wow. Let me show you. You can really see the different layers of the ocean. You'll want to put a little cap on it. So the bottom is the trench, then the abyss, the midnight zone, and the twilight zone. And then on the top is the sunlight zone, or as Dr. Seuss calls it, the sunny zone. All right, have so much fun doing this experiment with your family. I have one more activity that I'd like to show you. In case you don't have all these ingredients, I'm going to show you a different activity you can do at home. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make a hands-on ocean zone activity. All you need are 3 different color of blue paper, a light blue, a medium blue, and then a dark blue or black for the 3rd layer. I like to have my little jars with a different color water as well, but totally optional. And then the kids can take either pictures of the animals, or if you happen to have plastic figures, you can also use plastic figures or a combination of both. These plastic figures are the Safari LTD tubes, which they have a lot of different animals, and you can find some that live in each of the zones. So let's start with the sunlight zone. One animal that lives in the sunlight zone is our little sea turtle. And what about this? Does anyone know what that is? Back whale. And narwhal. We've got, everyone knows what that is, dolphins. There are hammerhead sharks and other kind of sharks that also live in that zone, and different kind of rays live in that zone. So all in the sunlight zone. Now the next zone is our twilight zone, and a lot less light gets down into the twilight zone. Eels live in the twilight zone, although you can find eels in other zones too. Typically though, twilight zone. Also with the octopus, it can live in the twilight zone, but it can also live in other zones, different species of octopus. We've got the sperm whale. And also the squid. All right, Mr. Squid, let's make some room for you. You are big. And then finally the midnight zone, which is really down deep, dark. One fish that I'm really fascinated by in the midnight zone is the anglerfish. Stay tuned. In the summer, I think we may dive deep into the midnight zone and talk about some of the interesting creatures that live down there. But the anglerfish with its little light, I just think that's so neat, lives in the midnight zone, as does the viperfish. Fish start looking pretty scary down there. And the pelican eel. All right, so send me pictures of any of these activities that you do on the zones. You'll have to try to take a guess. We are going to focus our studies in May and June around a specific habitat in the ocean. So I'll have you write down in the comments what your guess is. What are we going to be studying for May and June? And if you want to see more of our lessons, like I said, we're going to be focusing our science lessons on oceans. Please like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell next to the subscribe so that you can be notified of our future lessons. Thanks for watching.